All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. Can you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Can we get a roll call?
Certainly. Please note that Commissioner Jammu is excused this evening, so we have Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Perez, and Chairperson Condit.
Here. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to declare a conflict of interest? I will be recusing myself from item 7 for a conflict. All right, so citizens communication. While the Planning Commission welcomes and encourages participation in Planning Commission meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression on non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Ceres Planning Commission and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the Ceres Planning Commission from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Ceres Planning Commission. Citizens are entitled to address the Planning Commission on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Is there anyone tonight that would like to make public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay. Any emails or anything?
Not for citizens communication portion. We have an email for item 7 later on in the meeting.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. If discussion is required, that particular item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. I did have a question for the city attorney if he's on. Can I ask a clarifying question on an item without pulling it?
Yeah, yes, if it's brief.
Okay, just a quick question on item 3, if the applicant or developer is here.
The time extension for Whitmore Ranch.
The time extension for Whitmore Ranch. Yeah. Can you just step up to the podium, sir, please? Thank you. Can you just kind of briefly explain the reasoning for the extension? This is your second one. Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. Just want a clarifying point. Do you feel confident this will be your last extension? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions? All right, with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the consent calendar.
I'll second that motion.
You get a roll call?
Certainly. Chairperson Condit.
Aye.
Commissioner Gill,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, and Commissioner Perez. Motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to public hearings. Item 5, we can get a staff report.
Thank you, Chair. We're just going to get it loaded. A brief presentation. Thank you, Chair and fellow commissioners. Lisa Vlakis, planning consultant. I'll be presenting the Sangera Grub Hub project. Next slide. So the applicant is proposing a Grub Hub on a small portion, a 0.83 acre portion of a larger 1.3 acre site for a mobile food vending parking facility, or Grub Hub is the more common name, but our code does call it a mobile food vending parking facility. And they will have a covered seating area, game area, container restrooms, and 10 food truck stalls and associated parking. Next slide. The site is located on Service Road. You'll notice that there is already an access office service. There's a driveway to the north of the site. We have vacant land for commercial use. South will be Service Road and some residential uses. East is a TID canal, Moore Road, and more residential uses. And then west is a car wash and gas station, and then a future bar, which is in, I believe, improvement plan review. Next slide. You'll notice that the site has a highway commercial land use designation. It is also in the Mitchell Road Corridor specific plan as highway commercial. From the staff report, you'll see that highway commercial does support food uses. The master plan also encourages food uses similar to a Grubhub, which provides quick and easy access and convenient food options to those traveling in the area. Next slide. Well, the site also has a zoning designation of highway commercial. So technically, highway commercial does not specifically mention Grubhubs, but the food ordinance does delineate certain zoning districts that can have Grubhubs, and highway commercial is one of them. So we can find conformance through that mobile food vendor ordinance. This is the site plan. You'll notice at the front of the lot, so they're not subdividing the larger lot. So there will be landscaping on the undeveloped portion, but then behind that will be the Grubhub. They will have 10 food truck locations and sufficient parking. You'll see in the middle, they have the covered area and the parking's all around this. There was a minor change to this site plan where it shows a truck on the west side. It will be parking now. So there will only be 10 overall trucks and parking. This project is exempt per CEQA section 15332 infill development. It's consistent with the general plan. It's within city limits. The project currently has no value as habitat for endangered or rare species, and the site is adequately served by all required utilities and public services, and we don't anticipate any traffic, noise, or air quality issues. So at this point, staff is recommending that you find the project categorically exempt from CEQA and then adopt a resolution approving a CUP for the Grubhub. The applicant is here if you have any questions or for me or staff.
We'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Anybody want to make public comment on this item? Anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Yep. Mr. Warren? So,
John, I don't think your mic's on. Your mic? There you go.
there we go.
Okay. John Warren, City of Ceres, didn't want to speak specifically to this one project, but it's both Grubhub projects. The city already has one that's being constructed presently over by Farm Supply Drive. And these two tonight will make like 3 in the City of Ceres, with like almost 50 food trucks combined total. And then of course we have the 20 that are around the town in various locations that are standalone ones on a private property. And then out there on Crow's Landing Road, we have another 50 or 60 at the El Ramito market. So I'm thinking that a little city of 48,000 people might be not wanting that many vendors within the city limits. I don't think the Ceres City Council thought about this and restricted the number of Grubhubs that they might allow within the city when this first came to them. So tonight, when you vote, I don't know if you would consider sending this back to the city or having them addressing the total number of vehicles they want in the city and the total number of Grubhubs that they might want to have in the city. I mean, Modesto to the north of us has 1, okay, and they got a city of about 200,000+ people. And I don't think that we need that many. So I wanted to speak to both, and that was my thought. I'm not saying the city doesn't need a Grubhub or 2, but I think 3 might be stretching the limit with close to 120 or 130 vehicles combined with all the different projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing or the public comment period and bring it back to the commission for questions and comments.
So the city of Modesto has more than 4 within their city. They've got 2 on Crow's Landing, and I believe 3 downtown. The one on 9th Street is the largest one. Then they have one on, I want to say, what is that?
Fully right?
On 7th Street, 8th Street, where the old, right next to the bus stop. There's one there, and then there's one down the road on 9th Street by Modesto Junior College. So they have several. The thing with the city of Ceres is we have room for 20 trucks. Right now, we have 12 that are signed up at locations with only 6 that are actually consistent. The way the Grubhub or the mobile food truck ordinance is written for the city of Ceres, it is not mobile friendly. And so it's very hard for a mobile food truck to get established here in Ceres. So with the Grubhubs, these locations are permitted. The people have vetted, and it's up to their establishments to see if they are going to move forward with it. But it does give an option that mobile food trucks can actually go to one site without being part of that ordinance that we have for the city.
How many individual food vendors can operate individually, not at a location? What's the current ordinance? Is it 15 trucks or 20?
So the city of Ceres has 20 mobile food trucks, 1 per location.
Okay.
We did, in answer to your question, as new applicants came in, we said, we have one approved. It's not constructed at this point. It's almost ready to open. It hasn't opened yet. And I feel like this use is like any other use in the city. We don't say, sorry, we have too many fast foods. We let you decide. The market will dictate whether or not you will or won't be successful. The 3 that we have all have a different twist in the way. The one you'll be hearing next is, an open outdoor music venue. So that's going to be a different vibe. The one that is on Farm Supply is next to the cannabis shop. That may have a different vibe. This is a smaller one next to a bar. Like, they may have their own draw in a different way. In the end, are they all food trucks? Yes, I think the market will take care of the numbers. Either they're going to have enough trucks to be successful or they won't. But they have a right to try. Our ordinance doesn't say we have to limit them. And then when you make your CUP findings, to whether you can or do or don't approve this, you have to look at what are these findings asking me? And they're related to the site. They're related to the plan. Are they consistent with the plan? Does the site have appropriate ingress, egress? The last one, I guess you can broadly say that the conditions protect the health, safety, welfare of the public. If limiting the number of food trucks in Ceres, you can somehow tie to that finding, that's one thing. But these findings don't really speak to, well, we think we have too many, so we want to deny it. You really need to look at the findings, since we don't have a limit, when you're considering whether or not you want to approve both of these tonight. But I do think they're all a little bit different, have something to offer. And like most businesses, if there's an overlap, the market will take care of that, and they may not be here.
And when was that ordinance approved by the council?
I believe it was approved it's in one of these staff reports. It's ordinance 2023-1080. So it was approved in December 11th, 2023.
And that was approved before we voted on the first Grubhub, correct?
Yes, we needed that to be approved to have the Grubhub.
Okay. To a clarifying point on something you said, Leah, that we can't dictate how many fast food restaurants we approve here, and that's totally accurate. But this very planning commission different members, of course, but we approved a chicken location on Hatch, and we received flack from certain elected officials. So I foresee ourselves in a similar situation. How many is too many? I think that's the question here tonight. And I think the city council hasn't provided the guidance on, is 3 too many? Is 1 enough? So I know the city attorney is on the line, but I like both of these projects. They, again, like you said, they have their own vibe, if you will. And certainly item 6, the music venues, unique to our city. But I guess my motion would be that we table both of these items, and specifically number 5 for the case of the item we're on, and discuss it at our next planning commission meeting, recommendations on Grubhub's operating in the city to present to the Ceres City Council. They put their guidance on it. Okay, we're going to cap it at 3. We're going to cap it at 4. This is what we want it to look like, X, Y, and Z. Then it comes back to us. So that would be what I would be comfortable with voting on these items, because again, they're the elected officials. We're appointed by them to, approve these items. And then I guess that leads me into my next question. Why is this a CUP development?
I think that the council was nervous about Grubhubs. I think there's not Grubhubs. I think the council, when this was broached by the city council, were nervous about food trucks. I think there's a common misconception that food trucks deter business. And what they found is food trucks bring people into your city. There is one of the local food trucks. They have a billboard off of Highway 99. So if you have a destination spot for these trucks, it will bring people, bring commerce. It helps people start businesses. It encourages entrepreneurship. It's very risky to start a restaurant. All of those things are the benefits of food truck, and I think the council was nervous about maybe some of the side effects, maybe hindering the growth of certain restaurants. And so when they were looking at the ordinance, they thought, well, how can we keep a thumb on this and keep some control? So they required a CUP. I think that when you look at other uses that require CUPs, there's something in it that impacts the public. Gas stations impacts the public. I don't know how the collection of food trucks, other than there's this idea that it's going to detract from restaurants, which hasn't been proven, is a reason to place that controls. But I do think it was new for the city, so they wanted to just monitor it. So they put the CUP process on it. I don't believe it happens in Modesto, but I'm not 100%.
So for clarification for the public, a CUP, once it's approved, it doesn't have to go to city council, correct?
Correct. But I do, if you don't mind, I would like to ask a clarifying question, because the motion, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would like to defer the item and then join it with a recommendation to have the council look at the ordinance. And that, to me, is a separate item that we haven't brought. So I'm wondering if it's better to, if that's what you're looking to do you deny the item, allow the applicant the opportunity to appeal, and then request that the city council then look at the food truck ordinance?
No, because I'm not against these projects. It's just the process is backwards. The council should be setting a limit on Grubhubs. I don't think they've thought that through. So again, we already approved one, which I don't know when it's supposed to open, but it's under development. But the process is backwards. They corrected the individual food truck ordinance, where they moved it from, I believe it was 5 at one point that could operate in the city. 10, okay. It was at 10, they moved it to 20. And I think they need to think this process through, because this is new. So again, that's just my thinking on it. I would love my fellow commissioners to hop in on it as well.
My only concern is that we would slow down the process of approval. I'm all for anything that promotes business, right? That allows us to remove some of the barriers of entry to entrepreneurs to have their own restaurants, be it mobile trucks. So if we can expedite that process, I'm happy to move forward. But I understand there has to be a processual kind of understanding.
So if we do this, we're looking probably delayed 2 months, 2-3 months.
I don't know. I would like, because what you're asking is to an ordinance change. So no, an ordinance change doesn't happen in 2
Well, it's not necessarily an ordinance change. It's up to the council. It should be,
They can't just say arbitrarily, we want 5. They have to then pass an ordinance. So you're updating the food truck ordinance to then create a cap on the number of grub hubs.
correct.
Right, so it's an update to the ordinance. So then.
So that can't just be placed on an agenda item.
Well, I haven't had the discussion. I would ask point of order, Tom. I mean, does council have to support, like, how does the planning commission recommend that an item go before council?
Yes.
Do they support that? Like, do we just bring an item? I don't know how we do that.
So what would happen is a commissioner would ask for a referral item to be placed on the next planning commission agenda. That then during that meeting, the planning commission will discuss if they would like to make a recommendation to the city council regarding adult developments in the city. And so if they vote on that to recommend to the city council, then that will be placed on the next city council agenda. So you do have some steps to take in this process, but the municipal code does allow the planning commission to make recommendations regarding developments in the city to the city council.
So then could they pause the, sorry, Chair, I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
So if they chose not to hear the Grubhub items pending a referral, they would, it's not a denial, it's not an approval, it's just a postponement to a date uncertain. And then they would make a recommendation to the council then discuss it at the next meeting and then is that just the discussion and then it comes back as an item?
Yeah, so I would, if you did want to table this until the city council took a look at it, I would continue the item until the city council takes action, if any, on the regulation of grub hubs in the city. So that'll give the city council an opportunity to contemplate it, and if they do want to place a cap on things, then they will take that action through ordinance to place a cap, which will take some time.
The motion would be to continue, okay, I'm just assuming the motion would be to continue the item and then separately, the chair or whomever would make the motion to have Grubhub limits as a discussion item to council. So they would just continue these separate and apart from that continuation, or does it need to be part of the motion?
It would be two separate actions, yeah. The city council's contemplation on the regulation of grub hubs should not be considered within these conditional use permits.
Okay.
So it would be continue the item, and then at our next meeting, we would make recommendations. Then it gets sent to the city council, correct?
That's correct.
That was my understanding. And there's no world where we can approve these, and I know there's CUPs, but we require them to go to the city council for approval and further discussion about the ordinance, because then maybe there's discussion with council members while approving these items that they want to change the ordinance.
Again, Tom, I'll defer if
The municipal code does not allow the city council to contemplate CUP decisions unless they're regarding like the general plan or a specific plan. And the city doesn't have a planning process that's ever allowed that to happen. So you can't, short of denying them and having them appealed, which would not be recommended if that's what you wanted to do. Yeah, you can't have them cease.
Well, it's just a question. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay. And again, my comments are not, I would not want to vote to deny this, to send it to city council. I would much rather vote on it. But again, I just feel the process is a little backwards. And anybody else have any comments? Press your button, Dave.
Last year we had comments.
No, press the button right there. There you go.
That was bright.
There you go.
Last year we had some pretty severe comments on a situation where we had what was felt one brand of food being next to another brand of food. So I don't want to shove this stuff through and all of a sudden people going, oh my gosh, what are you approving?
Just to piggyback off of Dave's comment, we're appointed by the council. We serve them basically in the Residences series and trying to embark on, making our community what our elected officials want when it comes to business. So it's only right that, I have a hard time with CUPs because it kind of lets the elected officials off easy. It's just the planning commission gets to vote on it, and they get to say just the planning commission voted on it. So, but with that, I would make a motion to continue the item to a later series planning commission meeting And then I guess in the referrals, I would make the referral. Or how would that work? Just to continue the item. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to continue the item at a later series, planning commission meeting.
I'll second that item.
We get a roll call, Ann?
Certainly. Chairperson Condit.
Aye.
Commissioner Gill.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
And Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 with one absent.
All right, moving on to item 6. We get a staff report?
Well-
Or do you just want to do the same?
Do I need to give, I mean, do we open can you continue the item without opening? Well, you did open the public hearing on the other one. Do we need to go through that if we know the intent is to continue the item, or can we also continue this item?
I would open up public comment for the next item and then continue it.
Okay,
Okay.
then I'll give, do I need to give do I give the staff report or just open public comment?
You can just open public comment if you know you're continuing it.
Okay.
You don't,
Okay. Item 6, is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on item 6? Yep, come on up. Mr. Euclid?
Gene Hinckley series. What be my absence of not looking this up? I'm not quite sure where on item 6, 1379 East Whitmore Avenue is for this truck stop grub hub. Where is that exactly located?
Leah, can you answer that?
Can we put on we'll put up.
We'll put up the map for you.
Just-
Yeah.
Julian's going to put up the map, but it's on Whitmore, just west of Rockefeller, south of the Vito Trucking Yard.
Okay. So I don't know if this was brought up before or to the city council. I don't recall this one at all. Again, my mistake if it was. Truck Stop Grub Hub, outdoor music venue, associated parking, seating area, game area, live performance area, commissary. I know what a commissary is. That's a damn store. Truck washing station, restrooms. I don't recall this. And again, I guess they're still trying to prove the flea market with their big grandiose thing they want to build with several nights a week with music and all this kind of stuff. I know that's an industrial area, but you got some homes that are supposedly going to be sold across Whitmore from there. I don't know. Where did they come up with this anyway? I mean, when? I don't recall this at all. And all those different items, I never heard of another grub type hub called the Truck Stop Grub Hub, and in live performance in a commissary, a truck washing station. Is it like semis? I don't know. Can you give me some answers on that?
If you can.
And so the county, which we follow some of their rules, have certain requirements for whether or not a truck can stay at a certain spot, whether a truck can cook at a certain place, what amount of cooking can occur on the truck, what amount of cooking has to be done in a certified prep area. So this Grub Hub is proposing to allow their trucks to prepare food on site. So the commissary will be like a kitchen where it'll be a commercial grade kitchen where they can prepare the food for their trucks, the part that has to be done in a kitchen rather than being done on a truck, because you can't do all of the cooking on the truck, if you know. And then to be able to stay on site, you have to be able to dump your fats, grease, and oils in a location. You have to be able to dump things that can't be just dumped on a normal Grubhub site. So this is an enhanced Grubhub site that will have drainage, that will have a grease trap, that will be able to clean the trucks. It's in the back location, I guess, Julian, if you want to scroll through. I guess I should have given the presentation, but it's in the back upper corner, out of the way, but the trucks at this location will be able to stay on site and do all of those things. So it's an all-inclusive area in the upper back area, that's where the truck amenities will be, so that then they can stay on this site longer. They don't have to leave and go cook somewhere else and come back. They can cook on site, they can clean their vehicles on site, they can dispose of their fogs, fats, oils, greases appropriately rather than leaving. So they're not washing their truck like you would at a truck yard. They're just doing what they need to do to be clean per the health code, washing down the minimal things, discarding of certain things. But you need to be able to have running water, so it's a truck wash station, but it's not like
So the
a
truck.
yard washing station.
So what you're saying is a truck washing station is for catering trucks only?
Food trucks, yes, for the food trucks.
Okay, that wasn't, I mean, I'm a retired truck driver. I know what a truck washing station is, and the description's not here.
Okay, I guess the overall notion of a Grubhub, that Vito's Trucking isn't gonna try to come onto the Grubhub site and clean their truck. It's gonna be for the trucks that are using the Grubhub.
How big is that seating area? Is that gonna be for the outdoor music venue?
Yes,
How large is that gonna be? People-wise?
it's an open seating, so it's not gonna have fixed seats, so it'll vary.
500, 1,000, what?
The architect is here if you want to jump up, if you want to give him a chance to.
We could save that question for if the commissioners may have questions for him. We can come back to that one. I'll jot that down.
Personally, I don't think we need this thing here. You got that thing going over there off of Mitchell. I think we should hold off, experiment with them if that goes through, and then continue with this sometime later. We're getting swamped with all kinds of stuff. If they're just trying to save the budget by bringing in revenue, I think you should hold off for a while and see how things work out with all the new businesses wanting to come in. Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Anybody else for public comment? Yep, come on in.
Sorry, super new to this. This will affect me because I live literally right across. I just want to know, I tried to read and I couldn't figure it out. Where will the main entrance be to Grubhub? And is there only one in and out, or will there be two? And where would that be?
If you want to, do you see that drive aisle off of Whitmore? It's kind of existing in the Google Earth image.
Sorry.
They'll be that it's a driveway to nothing essentially existing right now. They're going to improve that. If you go to the area.
So it's the existing one that there is right now?
Yes.
So there's only one way in and one way out?
Yes.
And lights. Are there going to be lights? Like new lights? And if so, where?
There'll be street lights. They have to improve the street. The street lights will be in accordance with City of Series standards. There will be on-site lighting, yes. Their light's not allowed to spill past their property line, so we don't have a full lighting plan. I don't think, the trucks have their individual lights. The stage will have a light, but they're not allowed to have light spillage. So if they are, they're in violation of their permit.
Sorry, I mean street lights.
Yeah, they'll be planned per city standards. I'll defer to the city engineer on placement, but I don't know how far apart our lights are.
Yes, so they will have street lights that will be installed. The street lights, like Leah was saying, are per the standard of series. It's all depending on, and I'm not quite sure where there are street lights right in that vicinity. But essentially, we have spacing, say, of 200 feet apart, and mainly that's for traffic. So those streetlights won't be affecting necessarily the Grubhub. They'll be going onto the street, so that way, obviously, it's safer for vehicles to travel during the evening hours. So there will be a street light. I can't imagine that there will be two street lights. That would be their frontage is not that big to require them to have two street lights, or to put two street lights in, I should say. So we would just see where that street light would end up in the grand scheme of things, so that it's properly spaced from every other street light.
Because on one of the maps, it says a street light and street light on both ends. So that's why I was, the more colorful one. It had two street lights. So I was just wondering, I'm just very concerned because there are always, I mean, I know there's accidents everywhere, but coming out of Rockefeller and the liquor store with all those houses behind that I know are still vacant, there's so much collision there, so many collisions. So I'm just really, I would like to know like how many people is this going to be to? Also like music wise, if there's going to be music, what's the shut off time? Because again, there still are houses right there. And I'm not opposed to things coming in. I just care about safety, especially, you know, those houses that are there. It's just really scary that right now, the way the speeding is, it's insane. You have a light on Blaker and you have a light on Morgan and really nice, you know, street that people just race down all the time. So this is just adding to more of my concern. You know, my exit is literally where the entrance will be of the place. So I'm just concerned about safety. Again, whatever comes, you know, I've been a Ceres resident all my life. I just care about safety.
So the lights on the plan just, they're not improvement plans, so they're kind of illustrative, right? Like they need to show that they're gonna have streetlights. When, if it were to ever get to the building permit stage, Michael does their whole street plan and they will dictate the lights. So there may be more on there. Yes, on the color plan, they show like 4. It won't be that many. It'll be per the standard. And then for noise, they will have to be shut down, I believe, by 11 p.m. And then they also did a noise study because there are residents immediately across the street. I don't know if you had a chance to review the staff report, but to summarize, they had a noise consultant determine what would be the noise of a venue on those homes. And so first they have to analyze the ambient noise, and the ambient noise, and for context, to say it's 74 dBAs probably doesn't mean anything, but it's a constant hum of a busy street. And so then they factor in what noise would be like from a venue at a certain decibel, and it would be 64 dBAs. So the hum of the street outweighs the noise of the venue per this noise study. So when you say, will there be a noise impact? According to this study, there won't be. Obviously, if there are noise complaints, we take that into account. According to their conditions, they cannot have a noise impact on their neighbors. And if they do, maybe we revoke their right to have music. So all of those things are taken into account. As long as the study shows that they're meeting the general plan intent, we assume that they are until they aren't, right? So if there's a ton of noise complaints, then obviously they're not adhering to what they need to do, which is why it's a CUP. We can say you need to, you know, be in compliance with the noise, or we'll revoke your CUP, things like that. So as far as speeding, this is a kind of a planning theory. When you're adjacent to empty lots, people tend to speed more. When there's activity, when there's people, inherently drivers slow down. It's just it's a psychological thing. So I do think that will alleviate some of the speeding in that area. When there's nothing there, people think they're nowhere. Activity slows people down naturally, but you know, there's no street improvements, or there's going to be a median, a left turn median. So there'll be some, those things also slow people down. So the project does have built-in protections, I guess, in some of those concerns that you're raising.
Okay. And if this is, you know, built and done, and there are safety issues once this is already in place, is there anything that neighbors can do, or once it's done, it's done? And if we see any, you know, high, you know, risks of, I don't know, accidents or whatever, can we bring things to the table like to make it safer? Or once it's done, it's done?
Michael takes under consideration when there's an area and people say, is it the forum, when they say this area, people are always running the stop sign, or this area, they're speeding. He has protocols as the city engineer to then look at that issue. Maybe we need a speed bump. Maybe we need something else. And his department evaluates that if it's a big enough problem that it comes to his department. Or how does it get to you? Is that?
So there's a traffic calming request form that you can fill out, and you can fill that out regardless if there's a new development or anything going in. We do get them quite often, and we have to look at them. We have to take everything into consideration as we move through the process of determining whether stop signs can go in, stop lights can go in, even yield signs, crosswalks, all of those types of things. We take into consideration. We routinely on our street upgrades, when we reconstruct street sections, try to add in traffic calming measures. Whitmore is a little different a street. It's one of our main arterials. It's one of our busiest streets, east-west. And big streets like this are made to move traffic across town. So if we look at accidents and we see that there's been a ton of accidents, then we can take that type of stuff into consideration. Some of those things actually have to go to traffic engineers for them to look at what we call warrants. And so there's an entire process that the engineering department goes through when we're looking at traffic calming requests.
Thank you. I just ask just for safety, just to keep in consideration everything that can keep us, those few homes that are still there safe. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Excuse me, ma'am, would you state your name for the record, please? Dora, and your last name?
Lepe, L-E-P-E.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, oh, he beat you, Shirley. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, John Warren. The question I had when I read through this originally, and I know that you're going to probably continue this on until another meeting, but how many vehicles, how many trucks is this designed for? The way I kind of figured is I counted the ones that were in the diagram, but I didn't find any verbiage in the staff notes that says this is for 20 or this is for 30. And of course, there's the other question is the maximum number of people that might be there for a music venue and all of that sort of thing. So I thought I would ask what's the maximum number of trucks that can be on this site at any one time?
I think it showed 21 on there on the number of trucks. It shows 1 through 21, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's 20.
20, yeah.
And they are limited based on parking, right? So they're only providing parking for 20 trucks. So that's how we limit it if the question. Yeah, there's 20. The plans are adopted as part of the record. It's in the plan, so it may have been omitted from the staff report, but the resolution has an exhibit, which are the plans, which are attached, and that is memorialized in the approval.
Shirley?
First of all, can you give us a definite legal description of what a Grubhub is? Because these things that are listed on here are Grubhubs Plus. And, I wrote out something I wanted to read. And I come before you today to state that I'm for any business that wants to start up in Ceres. I'm a firm believer that no business would try to start a business in a city where they think it would not make money. With that in mind, I believe that the tax foundation of the city is founded on business. Grubhubs are definitely the answer for the food trucks. There are many different food trucks with many different foods. Not all are taco trucks. As long as the food trucks are not in front of businesses and are in a Grubhub, I could care less how many Grubhubs we have in Ceres. Now, as I wrote this, I did not know that all these recreation and games and other things were going to be included. That's why I asked for a definition of a Grubhub. And remember, the owner doesn't think they're going to make money. They're not going to try to open a business. For the planning commission or the city council to decide whether business can or cannot make money is ridiculous. With all this said, as a citizen and taxpayer of Ceres, I back the Grubhubs, all of them. Remember, no matter your opinion, you're making a decision for approximately 50,000 residents and people that will come here from other cities. We're going to end up a bedroom town if we don't get business. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
We don't define Grubhub. It's actually just one or more. So if you had two, by definition, you would be a mobile food vending park. So we don't define that, but it's our job as the planning department to see where we can be flexible within our interpretation of the code. Is this a Grubhub plus? Maybe, but they're not in conformance because it doesn't say you can't have these things. So it's a good use for, it's a family use. It's something that the city, when I think about who's using this venue, we are thinking about 50,000 people and not the select few that come to these meetings or who may not be interested. But I think that our community wouldn't want these if there wasn't interest. So as a planning department, we take that into consideration when people bring ideas to us that may not everything fits perfectly into the code. So we are tasked with interpreting that code, and we feel this fits into the intent when they thought about one or more. Why would they think about one or more? It's more of something like this.
Anybody else in the public that would like to comment on this item? Is anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Any emails on this item or anything?
No, I haven't received any.
Okay, go ahead and close the public comment period for this item and bring it back to the commission. Again, I feel the same way as the previous item. I would like to table this for a future planning commission meeting. And it'll be a part of the referral process as well.
I did have one clarifying question. So there's only one left turn into the park, so one entrance, one exit. So what would people that would need to go eastbound after exiting do? Because I don't think there's a U-turn on Morgan Road, right?
So they would need to go to the next legal spot that they could either make a U-turn or they'd have to take another route. The thing with medians in a road like this is when you're crossing 4 or 5 lanes of traffic, that is much more dangerous than going to a controlled intersection to where you can actually make a U-turn. So you will definitely see on any development, doesn't matter if it's a Grubhub, or any type of development, there will be medians going in, especially when they are on these major roads where, as the resident pointed out, the speed limit might be posted at 45, and unfortunately driving is a behavioral issue, and there are people who drive 60, 70 miles an hour with no problem. So yes, you will only have the left-hand turn in. You will not be able to make a left-hand turn out across all those lanes of traffic.
And just to clarify, what is the next, turnaround? What street? I don't think Morgan Road has a U-turn, right? Is it big enough to incorporate that? I mean, I think the next one would be pretty far out for anybody. Or if there's a way to, on Sandpoint Drive to make an entrance from there or an exit somehow, the entrance that way or something.
Morgan is a legal U-turn that they can make.
Would the applicant be willing to come up for a few questions for the developer?
Hello, my name is Ashley Renouillot, owner of the Truck Stop Food Park. I stand before you today with gratitude towards the city of Ceres. Your unwavering support, encouragement throughout the process of bringing the truck stop has been invaluable every step of the way. As an upstanding business owner in the city of Ceres, my husband Vito and I vow to make it our mission to create a welcoming space where families can come together, enjoy diverse culinary delights, and form treasured memories right here in Ceres. We are committed to supporting local businesses, artists, schools, clubs, and others by providing them with a platform to showcase their unique offerings while contributing to the economic vitality of our beloved city. The truck stop is not just a food park. It stands apart from the concrete jungles you might find elsewhere. Our vision is to create a vibrant and inviting atmosphere that reflects charm and warmth of Ceres. This is more than a business venture for me. It's a heartfelt endeavor to give back to a community that has given so much to us and our children. Safety is at the forefront of our planning. The truck stop will be securely fenced to ensure that every visitor feels safe. We have proactively addressed concerns about traffic and will work closely with the city officials to maintain the smooth flow on our busy street. supported by a large parking lot to accommodate visitors. While we aim to bring joy and entertainment, we respect the need for peace in our community. The truck stop is not a music venue, and we are committed to adhering to city ordinances regarding noise levels. Any stage activities will be thoughtfully planned, focusing on community and family-friendly events. Ensuring safety, maintaining a smooth traffic flow, and managing noise levels are extremely important to us, not only for the benefit of our community, but also because our business is located very closely to the truck stop. In closing, if there's any questions or further clarifications needed, our dedicated team is here and ready to and to assist at the best of their ability. Thank you again for your trust, support, and belief in the truck stop. Together, let's build a brighter future for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate that. Just a few questions that the members of the public had. How many people can fit in the amphitheater area, roughly, if you can give an estimate?
So there will be a lawn area. That could be around 200 people. The covered area could be around another 200 people. There's various areas to walk around and that sort of thing. So a few hundred people can fit in this. At max, there'll be, regulations and stuff that will force occupancy on that. But yeah, it's kind of, there's only so many seating available, and then there's lawn area to just hang out with the families and stuff like that. Pull blankets, chairs, that sort of thing.
So it would be rare for 200 people to be out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and I want to stress, it's not a venue for concerts. It's just kind of background music throughout. Just kind of the stage right there. It's more so just a place for presentation. So whatever they decide to do. So it's not just going to be bands or anything like that. That might be occasional, if at all.
Okay. Leah, how would that work with parking? Would we be able to accommodate 200 people with the current designs?
I mean, the intent is not to say that it's a music venue where you're going to hire a concert, but they're going to have live music. So parking is parking as it was based on the food truck, because we call them accessory uses. Is the music accessory? Yes, but is it still outdoor music? Like, we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So I would say the parking is still fine. The 2.5 spaces per food truck yields enough parking. I think that the people that are going to be there, they're not going to just not have food trucks one day and then have a concert venue, to Ty's point. But we did need to acknowledge that use in this discussion. So I don't think we need to plan for like concert parking.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And to confirm on the amount of trucks, it's 20?
20, correct.
And just to confirm the maximum occupancy, even like you said, there would be events planned, this still would be 200 people or around there roughly?
No, that's just on the lawn area per the code. I guess it's kind of there's certain
The venue, the occupation would be so if we have a fire code issue, let's say it felt like it was getting overcrowded and we had the fire go out and it wasn't safe, like we would shut it down. They're not going to have events which require additional inspection as if they were going to host 500, 600 people. So we say 200 because of occupancy based on the open field area and what that would mean for fire code. But we're not going to be counting it per se, but if it gets overcrowded and it becomes a safety issue, yeah, it's a CUP. We can put in additional constraints. You could add, I just don't know how we would track it, no more than 200. Like, no one's going to be there with a clicker. But I think that it's one of those, you kind of know when it feels like it's going wrong, and like that you're advertising this to have, U2, like that's going to be a problem, or whoever's popular. That's going to be a problem. Do a loop, whatever. Do a loop. I mean, like, it's going to be a problem if they're doing that. But if they're having a local band night, they're having, it is family friendly. Like, maybe they have, a local book reading. It's just whatever's going to be there. I think if we see that, we're going to have concerns. I don't think we need to worry about occupancy.
it's almost you could take it as a park with food trucks. It's just a place for gathering and that sort of thing. So it's multi-purpose. Yeah.
But you do foresee having an occasional, whether it's you have a local band or high school student, whatever the case is, and that is going to happen as part of this Grubhub.
If it allows, potentially, yeah, if it makes sense and everything like that.
Okay. I guess another question I have is what kind of communication have you guys done to the nearby residents on Whitmore?
The requirement of sending the letters and the addresses that they were requesting.
Okay. Yeah, and that proved case by one resident being here tonight. Other questions? Let's see. The lights, do you have any, you're going to work with city engineer on
Yeah,
street
we're gonna
lights?
follow ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Well, Ashley, I appreciate your words answering the question, sir. I like this project, and again, it's not personal on this item nor item 5. I just think the process is a little backwards, and I think we should get some thought from our elected officials on this. So with that, if there's no other discussion, I would make a motion to continue this item at a future planning commission meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Can we get a roll call, Ann?
Commissioner Condit?
Aye.
Commissioner Gill?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
And Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent.
All right, I'm recusing myself from 7. Dory will take over.
Okay, let's see. Item 7, 2521, the tentative parcel map. I believe we need a staff report.
Well, Julian's putting up, it's file number 2521, tentative parcel map, and then 2522, the site plan amendment. We're going to hear them together. So this is a Service Road in Morgan residential and commercial development and tentative parcel map. So this is a site plan approval amendment to add a drive-through to a previously constructed convenience store / tenant space and change the design and unit count of a previously approved apartment complex. So to be abundantly clear, the gas station is existing. The Planning Commission previously approved this project and an apartment project in 2022. What we're asking now is to amend that project and then, to amend that project so that it would basically be adding the drive-through to the already constructed tenant quick stop store. They did it as a multi-tenant space. So there is the convenience store, but then they have an additional shell tenant space. So this would be to add the drive-through, and it's an amendment because technically the building already exists. The Planning Commission already approved it without a drive-through. So now they're asking to amend that. And then it's basically a complete redesign of the approved apartment complex. This apartment complex was approved previously with 54 units. It was actually prior to this owner purchasing it, when they amended the Brown annexation area, it was approved with 64 units. When it was approved by the commission in 2022, it went down to 54 units. And it's important to discuss that with this change, we had to ask a lot of these developers. This was a site that was brought up during our housing element review. And HCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, really asked us, how could the city approve a project that was under density? And I said it was a previous administration. I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I think that the prior director maybe misunderstood limited densities. In any case, they were really upset with us that that project was under the minimum density requirement of 20 dwelling units an acre. So when they came back for an amendment, I had a discussion with the developer. I said, look, we can't continue to approve projects under density. We really need to up the density. And he was really excited about it. He was really supportive. He's like, I'd love to see more units on this site. I said, great, well, let's continue that. So he came back with this project and is able to hit 108 units on this site as opposed to the previously approved 54. So he had an approval for 54. It's changed form, it's changed unit count, so we're basically amending that prior development, prior approval. They also brought forward an old map. Since it's a different map, we're not calling it a map amendment. We're just calling it a new tentative parcel map. So there were 3 prior parcels and now it's just 2. The apartment complex will be in the larger parcel and then the gas station, convenience store and drive-through will stay on the smaller parcel. Next slide. So this is the site plan for context. The apartment area is vacant. You'll see the existing gas station, existing convenience store. The little yellow box is the new drive-through area. So the site is not changing other than there will be an additional drive-through put around the back of the site, then to exit out onto Service. So you'll enter on Morgan and can exit out on Service site. This is a mixed, it's technically one parcel, but it has two general plan land use designations. They are parcelizing it to kind of conform. The larger site where the apartments are going are HDR, which is high density residential, 20 to 30 dwelling units an acre. And then the small corner is community commercial, where the gas station is. Community commercial accommodates uses like the gas station, like the drive-through, like whatever tenant goes into that space. And then HDR supports multifamily dwelling units. Next slide. Then you'll see the zone is PC 49. So PC 49 is what we give to master planned areas. This is part of the Brown master plan area. There were no specific development standards, but we typically hearken back to the underlying zoning of what is a common land use zoning district for the land use designation. So HDR typically sees R5 connected with it, and then CC typically sees community commercial. So when we're looking at zoning, we're looking at, yes, a PC 49, which means nothing to most people, but think of it in terms of an R5 underlining zoning district and a commercial zoning district for the gas station area. The R5 allows high density residential, community commercial allows drive. Next slide. This is just the landscape plans. We had to break it down. So you'll notice the bus landscaping around the apartments, robust landscaping again on Service. So they are improving it. They're improving in between the apartments and the convenience stores. So the landscape design adheres to our code requirements. Next slide. This gives you some depiction of the elevations. You'll notice the height, it's just under 40 feet. R5 allows 3 stories or 40 feet. This is 3 stories and under 40 feet, so it complies to the zoning ordinance. The buildings are set back. If you look at this site plan, but we'll go back to that. The buildings are set back from the adjacent residential to give protect view shed. There's landscaping along the side, so the height is consistent, but we also feel the height is not imposing on the residential neighbors to the west. This is the back side. Again, it's going to be a drive-through, so you'll notice the little window on the bottom elevation. That's the front as it exists today, and then there's not much to see on the rear. It's just the drive-through, but we put them up there. That's how it exists today, and then the little drive-through window you'll see in the corner on the bottom elevation, the drive-through window. So this project is exempt for CEQA. It is under 5 acres. It's consistent with both the zoning and general plan. Part of the exemption is that there's no traffic, noise, or air quality or water quality issues. We had the applicant run a traffic study because there is increased units from what was previously studied. Yeah, there's more traffic than there was before, but the traffic doesn't rise to the level of an impact under CEQA, so we still can fall under this exemption. And the site is still adequately served by required utilities and public services. So we believe you can make this exemption finding. And finally, staff, the recommendation would be to find the project categorically exempt for CEQA and then adopt a resolution approving the tentative map and site plan amendment of the apartments and commercial project. The applicant is here, but his representative is on Zoom. And typically we let the applicant go first during public comment, but I'll leave it up to the chair.
No, we can open up public
Okay.
comment. Sure.
So Alex, I don't know if you're speaking or Mr. Chandi, or if is anybody speaking about the project? Oh, Daniel.
How's it going, everyone? Can you guys hear me fine? Perfect. I am Daniel Barnes. I am the civil engineer on this project. As Leah stated, this project isn't necessarily a new project. It's just an amendment to a previously approved project. We're increasing the number of units, helping with the housing element in the city of Ceres. And the existing corner commercial piece is still staying as an existing corner commercial piece. There is already an existing tenant space on the commercial building. All our project's going to be doing is an infill to existing approved uses, improving all the streets around the project, extending the median on Service Road to improve traffic, safety. All driveways are restricted movements right in, right out, except for Tranquil, which is all-way movements, as it is on the opposite side of the continuing street. We also corrected the alignment of the street on Tranquil, so it's in alignment with the existing driveway to the apartments to the north of our project. So again, conforming with existing uses, I think it's a great project for the area. It doesn't really add anything, new requirements per se. Additionally, adding sound walls along the westerly property line was shown in the site plan to help improve that separation between the high density residential and the adjacent residential. Even though it's not necessarily a requirement, the developer wanted to do his part to help mitigate any possible concerns. Thank you.
Chair, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention, we did receive public comment about the item. It was placed on the dais prior to hearing today, but this email did come in from sorry, I should have let Ann read that first. Sorry. Okay.
Yes, we received an email from James Lloyd. This Dear Series Planning Commission, the California Housing Defense Fund, Cal HDF, submits the attached public comment regarding item 7 for tonight's Planning Commission meeting, the proposed 108-unit housing development project at northwest corner of Service Road and Morgan Road, APN number 086-034-004. The letter reads, Dear Series Planning Commission, the California Housing Defense Fund, Cal HDF, submits this letter to remind the Commission of its obligation to abide by all relevant state laws when evaluating the proposed 108-unit housing development project at northwest corner of Service Road and Morgan Road. These laws include the Housing Accountability Act, HAA, and California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines. The HHA provides the project legal protections. It requires approval of zoning and general plan compliant housing development projects unless findings can be made regarding specific, objective, written health and safety hazards. The HAA also bars cities from imposing conditions on the approval of such projects that would reduce the project's density unless, again, such written findings are made. As a development with at least 2/3 of its area devoted to residential uses, the project falls within the HAA's ambit and it complies with local zoning code and the city's general plan. The HAA's protections therefore apply, and the city may not reject the project except based on health and safety standards as outlined above. Furthermore, if the city rejects the project or impairs its feasibility, it must conduct, quote, a thorough analysis of the economic, social, and environmental effects of the action, end of quotes. Furthermore, the project is exempt from state environmental review under the Class 32 CEQA categorical exemption infill development projects pursuant to Section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines, as the project is consistent with the applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies, as well as the applicable zoning designation and regulations. The proposed development occurs within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres, substantially surrounded by urban uses. The project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. Approval of the project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. Case law from the California Court of Appeal affirms that local governments err and may be sued when they improperly refuse to grant a project a CEQA exemption or streamlined CEQA review to which it is entitled. As you are well aware, California remains in the throes of a statewide crisis level housing shortage. New housing such as this is a public benefit. It will increase the city's tax base, it will bring new customers to local businesses, and it will reduce displacement of existing residents by reducing competition for existing housing. While no one project will solve the statewide housing crisis, the proposed development is a step in the right direction. Cal HDF urges the Commission to approve it, consistent with its obligations under state law. Cal HDF is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation whose mission includes advocating for increased access to housing for Californians at all income levels, including low-income households. You may learn more about Cal HDF at www.calhdf.org. Sincerely, Dylan Casey, Cal HDF Executive Director, and James M. Lloyd, Cal HDF Director of Planning and Investigations.
With that, do I close public comment?
Or you can ask for additional public.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Additional public comments. Are there any? Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, sir. Okay, my apologies.
I just wanted to point out that when I read the staff report, I was quite impressed that Leah had picked up on the fact that the proper number of apartments weren't scheduled in the original application. And I thought that was a big plus for the city because housing is an important thing and the additional units are really, really good. And to pick up on that and bring it forward, working with the developer, I think is something that our staff need to be thanked for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional public comments? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments and then open it up back to the council.
Yeah, I did have one question. I noticed that the parking spaces is 108 units, 141 parking spaces. Because, if you look at apartment complexes, I'm all for housing. I think we do need more housing, more apartments, more houses. But if you look at apartment complexes just across the street on Lexer Drive too, those cars start pouring out into the streets. You look at the one on Della Drive on by Mitchell, those cars are starting parked on the street. Don Pedro, same thing. Do we really think that the parking spaces is sufficient for the amount of units, especially with guests and everything arriving too?
So in the recent housing element update, we adopted a housing element that said we are going to reduce the number of parking spaces required for multifamily housing. It's something that we have to start considering in order to get these projects built. The developer, we need the units, but we can't get the units we need because we have this overburdensome parking requirement. And so at some point we need to look at that. So this is a test case. I believe I discussed it in here that the policy hasn't been implemented, but we are going to try it with this apartment complex. And when I say try, what happens when it's built and it's and people feel like people are parking on the streets? The streets are for parking. We have to stop planning though for cars. We have to plan for people. This is up until when the Moffett apartments were constructed. The original approval was the first apartment complex in 15 years in the city of Ceres. We can't keep pushing off these types of projects because we're afraid that there may be people parking on the streets. So we feel like an appropriate number is at least one per unit. They've achieved that plus 40 or whatever the math is additional, 32 additional. And so we're going to be working towards that. And the HCD says we have to work towards that. We had to come up with policies that made housing more affordable to build. And in our discussions with them over 2 years of getting that element approved, this is something that kind of arose. Like we have an overly burdensome parking requirement. So people don't want to build multifamily in our city. So we've committed to HCD that we're going to reduce that. This is slightly under that. We did commit in the housing element to do 1.5 spaces per unit. This is about 1.3. But I'd rather get the units than worry about the cars. And the only way you get people not comfortable driving is to make it uncomfortable to have a car. Now we're in the Central Valley. That will be in a while. It'll take some time, but we need to plan for people, not cars. So that is why we are recommending it with the reduced parking standard.
But is there any way, let's just say cars do pour out into the street, there's no parking on Service because that's, a busy street. There's no parking on the side over there or Morgan either.
I don't think.
So Service does not allow for parking on the side of it. And that doesn't matter where you are on Service. And then Morgan, I do not believe allows for parking either. But generally all of your local roads, for instance, Tranquil Lane, Lexer Drive, all of those are standard street parking. And they are in the public right of way. So when people park in places, provided they're not blocking somebody's driveway, it's a legal parking place.
No, I definitely agree with that. But if you look onto right there on Tranquil Avenue too, the townhouses right across the street, they already have cars that are pouring into the street. There's no parking space there if you go look there right now. So I think that, a project of this size, I definitely like it, but I think there's no spot just to pour out into the street besides Tranquil. So if that did happen to be a problem, testing it out with such a big apartment complex would be kind of absurd because if cars do start parking onto the street, then there's no way because you can't on Service, you can't on Morgan. Tranquil already has the street filled up. I've been down there. My friend lives there. There's no parking anywhere there available on the street.
I would say we could try it on something smaller, but again, this is our second apartment complex in 15 years. Like we don't get them. This is someone who's willing to when I had this discussion with the developer and I said, look, I need more units. He said, I wanted to do more units. I was asked to do more of a garden style, provide over 2.5 spaces per unit. It doesn't pencil out. And you have to consider what will make this project feasible. And that style and providing that much parking means that you don't get enough units to make the project pencil out. And you do have to worry about the end game because I need someone to build it. So I understand that there's a lot of cars on the street. There may be more. They may have to park farther away, but the burden of a car is on the individual that drives it. I can't keep burdening the city with no housing and not approving projects because we can't park 5 cars per unit. Like, it's not a feasible model moving forward. So I would like to try this out on a smaller project, but we don't get true multifamily development. We get people, building duplexes and calling it multifamily. That is not apartment living. That is cutting out a sector of individuals from housing in the city that need apartments, true multifamily. And I'm encouraging the Planning Commission to take a risk on this. And we only get better. We only encourage better use of our cars or getting out of our cars. If it's not convenient for cars, we have to start somewhere. We're going to get the ACE train at some point. Hopefully. There will be alternate means of transportation. It can't always be about the car. We need these units. HCD has set a certain goal for the city that we can't achieve if we're constantly worried that someone's going to be inconvenienced if they have to park too far away from their apartment.
And just a point of clarification, do we know if there's any public transport nearby? I mean, I know it's kind of out of the scope of our planning
I
focus.
don't know the exact bus stop, but we are going to be the hub of transportation. I don't think I can talk about the project yet, but we have a lot of public transit. We have the most trips of public transit in the Stanislaus County generate for San RTA out of Ceres, I believe. We have a robust public transportation system, and it's only going to get better given a future project that hopefully we can bring to you soon.
Okay, thank you. At this point, do we close comments? And
Close the public hearing, but you guys can keep talking if you don't have anything else.
I do think, I love the idea of bringing 108 units but to test it out, there's no viable parking on the street in case something does go wrong and the parking does overlap, there's not enough spaces. Can't we lower the little bit amount of units just to fit a few more parking spots? Because I know you said that we adopted the 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling, but we're under that at 1.3, And I'm just to clarify again, there's no parking on Morgan or Service. And you already have the gas station there. You're making a quick service restaurant. But is there any way we can lower the number of units just to kind of support that? Because
I'll ask the question, the architect and Daniel. Is there any room? It would require some significant redesign. I don't know.
So just to clarify the first point, no, you're just going to reduce the number of units. So the city is trying to adhere to their housing element requirements, which we're trying to be a proponent of and try to help that. If you make the parking requirements more stringent, you will just reduce the number of units. This is a relatively dense usage of HDR that we're trying to help the city with. I would like to add a comment to this, that the units of this development are 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. So it's not large apartment complex. It's not 4-bedroom apartment complex. So 1.5 requirement are currently hitting 1.3. If a third of these units or so are 1-bedroom, it's not going to, it very well is not as difficult of a parking requirement as some other projects may have. It doesn't have 3- and 4-bedroom larger units, or 5. So I would keep that in mind with this current parking concern.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I do think the project is great. I think the project does make sense to some extent, but when the element is 1.5 for 1-bedroom, 2 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom, 84, the majority are 2-bedroom units, and we adopted to lower the parking standard to 1.5, and now we're going to 1.3 on a test where you can't park, even if it does overfill, you can't park onto the street. So what would be the issue there? You know, what would be the resolution? Because, sorry, just to clarify one more point, you look at 3 apartment complexes, Lexer Drive right across the street. I can say maybe those are 3 bedrooms. They fill out into the streets. Della Drive right behind that plaza on Mitchell. There's no parking. They fill out onto the streets. Don Pedro, same thing. You can probably look at all the apartment complexes. There's not enough parking spaces.
I guess that kind of proves the point that the parking ratio is arbitrary, that those apartments all were parked at the code required parking spots, and it doesn't help. So do we just not have any of those apartments? At what point do we say this is the nature of multifamily living? People have more than one car. You know, the 1.5 was an arbitrary number that we chose. It was a reduction. It showed progress towards something. 1.3, would I say it's revolutionary? No, most multifamily in larger cities require 1 space per unit. We're over that. But using the logic that all those fill out, but they were all parked at the required ratio, and it didn't help. So if we went on the logic that we can't approve this because we don't have enough parking, then none of those units would have been built, and where would we be? When we have to report to HCD why we didn't approve this project because we couldn't park enough cars, I don't know. Right now, are we getting our hands slapped? It's an uncomfortable conversation that the director has to have with HCD. At some point, it's going to impact our ability to get funding if we do not produce housing units. And to say that we didn't produce it because there is no parking, like people will find a way. People are like water. They will find a way. Path of least resistance. They will park places. They may park in the neighborhood. It's uncomfortable for the neighborhood. I understand that, but all of those units were parked at code and it didn't help. So if we base the denial on that, and tonight we do need 3 support. If we don't get 3, the project does not pass. I would. I don't know. I don't know how. I'm not gonna. I don't know if I can convince you this evening. I mean, my professional opinion is that we can't deny this project based on enough parking. You can. It is a finding you can make. But I would not recommend denial of this project because we can't park more cars on site.
I think the only reason the other 3 apartment complexes work, you know, if they're filling out into the streets, is because they're on the back of a different road. You know, you don't see them on public roads, but when you have Service in Morgan, there's no spot to park. So those streets do allow for the overfill and to go onto the street to park, but with Service in Morgan, you don't. And then don't you think I would think that it would create a big traffic issue if cars start pouring out on a Tranquil Avenue for, you know, residents to come in, parking on the street, because you can't park, I think, on both sides of Tranquil, if I'm not mistaken, or is it just one side, or once it's developed, you can park on both?
No, you can park on both sides of the
Okay.
street, and I would caution that with people parking on the streets, so long as it is a legal parking spot, the street is designed for that. So it doesn't affect necessarily traffic or anything like that. We look at site distances, all of those types of things from an engineering perspective, that, hey, make sure that as they're coming out of this driveway, that they can see so that they don't get broadsided in an accident. Those are the types of things that we look at with public right-of-way. So when we look at these, if the street is meant to park, the street is meant to park. And provided you're only parking, you're parallel parking, you're doing it correctly, there's nothing that we can do, you know, to stop that. It's kind of like the neighbor that says, hey, so-and-so parks in front of my house every day. Well, it's a public street and they're allowed to do that. So on Tranquil and any of those internal streets, the parking is free and open if there's a parking spot that is not obstructing, 1, the view of an intersection, and 2, as long as it's not obstructing a driveway. And if it is obstructing a view, then the engineering department takes it and we actually will put red curbing in, so then it will be an actual ticketable offense from law enforcement.
I guess I'm looking at the map, which I wish we could pull up, but there's parking on San Pedro, right? There's parking on Granite Falls. I mean, you're assuming, I guess, that people won't walk a certain distance and that they're all going to try to park on Tranquil. And I guess that's the habit. Like, if you want to have 2 cars at this complex, you might have to walk 4 blocks to park your second vehicle. So it will change it'll change human behavior here. Yeah, you want 2 cars, you're gonna have to walk a little farther. I mean, and that's the goal. We want to get people out of their cars. We need the housing. I don't know what else to say.
I would like to clarify one thing. There's actually a mute or a mistake that we're kind of going over right now. I just verified the site plan's parking analysis that's on the architectural site plan, and it's actually currently calling out 155 spaces. So I believe we have a mistype. So if you take 155 with the 108 proposed units, we're actually at about 1.44 spaces per unit. Additionally, our current frontage is about 478 linear feet along Tranquil, which has allowed parking. If you take the 478 feet and you restrict about 40 or so, considering the driveway, that'd be an additional 22 spaces. So the 1.5 spaces per unit would require a total of 162. So we're only 7 short. So if you take, again, the frontage I mentioned on Tranquil and add that to it, we're actually overparked by about 14 spaces.
Okay, yeah, because I think it says 141 right here. So I think there was a mistype.
So at this point, do we want to motion for a vote? Okay. Whoever would like to second a vote?
Somebody makes the first motion and then someone will second.
Oh, sorry. I make a motion to take a vote on this item.
Take the vote. You have to motion to approve or deny. Sorry. So are you making a motion to
Approve the item.
approve the item? Okay. So be a second to approve the item.
Commissioner Perez,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, and Commissioner Gill.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0 with 1 absent and 1 recusal.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8. Turn this one over to Mr. Beltran.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Beltran, Director of Engineering. Tonight, before you is the annual review of the 5-year capital improvement program. The capital improvement program does need to get reviewed by the Planning Commission every single year before the budget. The plan is to adopt this with the budget on June 23rd. The capital improvement program is essentially a physical list of projects that is determined by department heads, the engineering department, citizens that come in. We look at pavement condition indexes. We look at sidewalks. We do all kinds of different types of things that allow us to come up with a project list for the capital improvement program. This also includes replacing water lines, replacing sewer lines, putting in or replacing storm drain lines. All of those things are part of a capital improvement program. So what are the benefits? You know, it really implements the city's general plan, particularly from a utility, water and sewer and storm drain standpoint, and most importantly, a circulation standpoint. It encourages early review of priorities. You know, when we look at these roads, you know, it's a known fact that, you know, we have failing roads all over, not just Ceres, but all over the state of California. Infrastructure for the longest time was not invested in. So now we are investing in it. Catching up to that investment will be nearly impossible, but we will do everything that we can with the money that we bring in from various sources, grant funds, Measure L, you know, those types of things, SB1, gas tax, those types of fundings. We will do what we can to bring funds in the door. It provides opportunities for coordination among projects with respect to location, funding, and timing. So with this, you know, when we look at a road that we're going to say reconstruct, we're going to coordinate with every department in the city. Water and sewer, some of our water and sewer lines are as old as the city. And so those lines need to be replaced. They are much past their useful life. We keep track of, for instance, how often we repair a water line. And that way those water lines get on the list. Sometimes we haven't maybe had a break of a water line at all. We haven't had a problem with a water line under the street, but hey, maybe it's 70 years old. Well, it's pretty much past its useful life. We do not want to put in a brand new road, have a water line blow, and then have to replace more road that we just, reconstructed. We don't like going into brand new roads, and we want to make sure that we upgrade everything that's necessary. Utilizes public input to assist with sites for needed projects and where advanced acquisition should occur. This is in the case of storm drainage. A lot of our streets, for instance, run off of French drains and dry wells. Two things that have proven, if you watch when we get a quarter of an inch of rain, how many streets get flooded. A lot of those are going to French drains and dry wells that frankly have stopped working, may have worked well when they were first put in and no longer work well. So figuring out acquisitions as far as, hey, do we need to purchase a piece of land for a storm drainage basin? If a development's coming in, is there a place that a storm drain basin is going to go that they're going to dedicate to us? We can start to foresee these as we move through the capital improvement program. And then it also provides for long-range financial planning. We, like I said, do not have enough money to keep up with all of the infrastructure in our city. That's a foregone conclusion, and that's not a Ceres thing. It's not a Central Valley thing. It's not a state of California thing. It is a nationwide item of concern. And so we plan this out as best as we can with the funds that we have, so that we can prevent infrastructure failures. We need to make sure water flows, the sewer goes the right way and gets to our plant, those types of things. Those types of things are what we have to make sure continue. So ultimately, it is the city council who is responsible for the selection of the capital improvement program projects and their prioritization. The Planning Commission's role is to determine whether the projects are consistent with the general plan, text, maps, and policies. The commission should limit itself to this. However, feel free to suggest deleting, modifying, or adding projects. The commission is not asked to prioritize projects. So we have gone through the general plan, and there are many goals within the general plan that support the capital improvement program. We'd look at complete streets, putting in sidewalks, maintaining acceptable multimodal travel flow along our corridors. We coordinate with Stan RTA. We do all of these things to make sure that, we can look and provide the best that we can for our citizens. And that's something that we hold near and dear to the engineering department. Good use of our taxpayer funds, and prioritizing where those needs are. There's lots of people that want, we get emails that say, hey, we haven't done a slurry seal on this road. Yeah, we understand that. That is a maintenance thing, and we are doing slurry seals. We have one out to bid right now that does about 4 different neighborhoods. And we are trying to put more and more of those out. I would love to be able to slurry seal a road every 2 to 3 years and cape seal it every about 5 years. We don't have the money for that. So we do what we can where those needs present themselves. We make sure the infrastructure gets fixed where we can, and we try to do a mixture of roads as far as maintenance and reconstructions as we move through this. So at this time, staff recommends that Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that the draft 5-year capital improvement program is consistent with the Series 2035 general plan and related master plans. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beltran. I have a question on the Measure L projects here. So the column that has carry over from 2024 to 2025, those are currently in progress. Do I understand that right?
Some of them are, some of them are not. I would say in Measure L, most of them are. So generally, the carryover is just that we have money that is allocated to a project, and if we've started that project, obviously we will draw those funds down. If we haven't started that project and we got funding in it last year, then it gets carried over to this year also. So that money carries over. Measure L, I would say most of those projects, from what I can tell, all have begun in some way, form, or another.
And those can take up to the 5 steps, if you will, up to 2030? Or, I mean, what's the breakdown, I guess, on the timeline for the project?
So they can, a little bit on the timelines for projects. One thing that I look at when we are doing a project is we need to design a project and we need to build a project. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me to design a project and not build a project. It does nothing for us other than, okay, we designed a project, we set it on a shelf, and okay, we're going to get to it in 5 years. Well, 5 years, codes change, things change. Now, guess what? We're redesigning a project. So when we look at things, so the city council approved a few months ago Central Avenue and the North Central Avenue project, along with the Richland Avenue project. 3 spots within town have bad roads, need sidewalks, those types of things. Those are all in design, and we will have the funding to build all of those roads. That's where we look at the future planning and long-range planning. So when you look at this, the carryover is obviously money that's there. The column number 1, or year number 1, is 25-26. That is what we are asking council to appropriate into this year's budget for each of those projects. In years 2, 3, 4, 5, and the estimated costs beyond, those are all estimated costs. Obviously, our funding depends on a lot of grants. Our funding depends on tax revenues, those types of things. So we have to ebb and flow with those revenues as they come in. Measure L has been great for us. We use it a lot for matching for federal grant funding. But sometimes federal grant funding, we may start a project, get federal grant funding, but that federal grant funding isn't available for 3 fiscal years out. Well, we wait for that money to come in. So in that case, we would start design, environmental, those types of things. And then when the money becomes available from the feds for construction, we would apply for that money, bring that money down, and construct the project.
So do you have projects on this list that do not have designs? Not necessarily just Measure L, just in general of the whole list.
That do not have design?
Correct.
Yes, there definitely are projects that don't have design on this. Now, most of those projects, I would say, are out 2 years and beyond, or they're brand new projects. For instance, under the sewer projects on the last page, there's Pine Street Sewer Trunk Line Upgrade Phase 1, El Camino M4 Storm Drain. We have not started design on those because there hasn't been any money in that's been carried over. So those projects, no, we have not started any design on, simply because we haven't been appropriated that money at this time.
What is the project number when it just says future?
Future is generally just a project that does not have a project number. If it is assigned in the year 1 column and says future, then, for instance, the same projects that I just mentioned, Pine Street Sewer Upgrade, it does not have a project number yet, simply because it hasn't been allocated any funds. As soon as it's allocated funds, then I request from the finance department for them to assign a project number to it, and then I transfer those funds that were appropriated by council into that project.
Yeah. Okay. Any other commissioners have questions before we take it out to the public? Anybody from the public like to comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. I I guess one project for me that I would like to, I guess, recommend tonight to my fellow commissioners is Lions Park, which I'm sure Mr. Beltran's aware of. Sits on the other side of Hatch there, and it's been vacant for over 20 years. What's that? Yeah, yeah, on River Road over there. Citizens who purchased those homes 20, 25 years ago were promised this is going to be a park, and here we are, 2025, and it's a empty lot. So I would like to see it added. I know Public Works Director recently stated at a council meeting that it would take $4 to $5 million to complete that. But if it's at least on our list, and maybe we can actively search for some grants, I think that's one that I would at least like to recommend tonight. Are there any other questions for Mr. Beltran? Commissioner Johnson, anything? No? Okay, well then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve with the addition of adding Lions Park on that list. Got a first and a second?
Yes, Chairperson Condit,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Gill,
Aye.
and Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 with one absent.
All right, new business, none. Public meetings, none. Unfinished business, none. Anybody have any reports?
Excuse me, Chairperson, did you want to make that referral item?
Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you for the reminder. So that would be new business, or there's not a referral section on mine?
No, you can just do it now during this.
So I guess the referral would be for us to, at our next planning commission meeting, to discuss Grubhubs and make a recommendation from that meeting to the city council.
Do we have to discuss it first, or can he just make?
I think the city attorney said we had to formally approve it at the planning commission meeting, and then it goes to the city council, but he can clarify.
It needs to be agendized on the planning commission meeting before action can be taken.
Okay.
So everybody agree to that? Yeah. Yeah. We don't need to take a vote on that, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Any reports? City staff, anything? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and adjourn to the next scheduled planning commission meeting on July 7th.